Joint forces defend a massive Houthi attack on Adala Gabaret. Houthi militia threatens to launch large-scale war if truce efforts fail. Houthis are accused of returning Yemen into a drug hub in the region. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. I am Abir Ali and you are watching the English news. The joint forces thwarted two attacks by the Houthi militia on the fronts northwest of Adala. A military source confirmed that units of the joint forces took fierce battles against the rebel militia while trying to infiltrate towards the positions of its units. Worth mentioning, violent confrontations took place between the rebel militia and the joint forces in the province during the past days, in which the militia suffered heavy human and material losses. The Houthi militia escalated on Adala front during the past days. According to the military sources, the militia targeted the joint forces positions as well as the populated areas in the north of the city. This report has more.
Gunpowder taints the air as bullets whiz past unassuming civilians. Despite discussions of reconciliation and peace talks, the Iranian-backed Houthi militia continues to commit more crimes and breaches in an attempt to aggravate the situation further on Eid al-Adha. Military sources in Al-Dala front allege that the Houthi militia abides by no covenants on Eid al-Adha, deliberately targeting military sites, residential areas, civilians, their farms and properties with drone missiles and various weapons. The most recent incident involved a drone projectile that claimed the lives of 3 soldiers in the Thakher front.
Despite ongoing peace negotiations, the militia doesn't abide by peace, furthering their escalations on a daily basis with various artillery and continually targeting residential neighborhoods. Yesterday, we lost 2 soldiers. However, we are men of peace and war, and we are ready to confront the threat.
During Eid, military commanders paid visits to the Al-Dala axis, exchanging Eid greetings with leaders and soldiers, who briefed them on tactical developments.
Today, we visited the heroes of Habil al-Abdi on Al-Fakhr front. These areas are strategic and security sites positioned before enemy lines. We would like to congratulate all soldiers and military personnel stationed on these fronts on the occasion of Eid al-Adha.
On the tops of these towering mountains and in sites of combat, soldiers of the joint forces spend the Eid al-Adha holiday on vigil, claiming that their holidays are their fronts.
A violent explosion shook the city of Adala in southern area of Yemen. Local sources confirmed that a violent explosion took place in the center of the city of Adala, and its sound was heard in separate neighborhoods. According to the sources, the explosion occurred in a car of an engineer near the workshop for car repair in the city center. In Al Jouf, government forces shot down a Houthi drone attack. Field sources said that the air defense of Al Jouf government police forces shot down a Houthi drone while it was flying towards military sites. The sources did not mention any additional details about this incident, which comes in light of the unannounced truce that has been going on since April of the last year. Children found a number of Houthi-laid mines in one directorate in Al Jouf government. Local sources said that children working in herding sheep found a number of mines that Houthi militia had planted during the confrontations. The sources indicated that the children played with a number of Houthi mines because they did not know how dangerous they were, but survived as the mines did not explode. The Houthi militia threatened to launch an open war if efforts to revive the truce failed. Those statements made by the rebels' military spokesperson Yahya Saree today. According to observers, such as a Houthi rhetoric can undermine regional and international peace efforts. This report has more details.
The Houthi militia slammed the ambassadors of Britain, France, and the US to Yemen following a statement in which they criticized the group's intransigence and hinted at isolating it internationally should it choose military escalation. Presently, fears are mounting of a return to field attacks based on the group's movements, especially towards the fronts of Taiz. The president of Yemen's Leadership Council, Rashad Al-Alimi, acknowledged that despite regional and international efforts, no progress has been made. He blamed the Houthi group for the failure of efforts to extend the truce, saying it was creating instability. The Houthi attack on the three ambassadors came in statements issued by the group's Supreme Economic Committee in Sana'a. The committee's statement claimed that America, Britain, and France were spreading false narratives to cover up their hostile actions. The statement added that these countries are spearheading the war against the Houthis and are working openly to prevent any efforts to disburse unpaid salaries. The group justified its terrorist attacks on oil ports in Hadramaut and Shabwa, claiming they were preventing the plundering of sovereign wealth. The government is now facing a sharp decline in economic conditions due to the cessation of crude exports for about 9 months. The three ambassadors had acknowledged in the statement that they were aware of the complex and important issue of public salaries, stressing that there is no military solution to the conflict and that now is the time to start talks toward a political process. In their statement, the ambassadors called on the Houthis to completely abandon any military option. They hinted that any return to conflict will lead to the group's complete isolation by the international community. The ambassadors added that restrictions on the movement of women, especially workers in the humanitarian and development field, in Houthi-controlled areas must be lifted. The ambassadors affirmed their country's commitment to a comprehensive political solution to the conflict in Yemen, their full support for the UN Special Envoy, the Yemeni government, and support for efforts aimed at holding Yemeni talks under the auspices of the UN and a comprehensive ceasefire.
The employee of the Ali Institute for English Language demanded that their salaries to be paid, which the Houthi militia had suspended. A source at the institute said that the fighting within the wings of the Houthi militia threatens to blow up the Ali Institute, whereas an employee of the institute revealed that the situation at the Ali Institute is dire and that institute is in danger. The Houthis have been accused of turning Yemen into a drug hub in the region. Such accusation came within a statement by the British ambassador to Yemen. On a Twitter account, the following report has more details.
The Iran-backed Houthi forces in Yemen were once more charged of turning the nation into a center for regional drug trafficking as the world observed the International Day Against Drug Abuse on June 26. The amount of Houthi drug smuggling was revealed in statements from the US and the UK, despite the militia's continued claims that they have been destroying illegal imports they have found. According to the British embassy in Yemen, Yemen has become a frequent market and route for drug smuggling in the area, and such operations feed war and organized crime, while also destabilizing countries. In 3 separate incidents in the Indian Ocean and the Gulf, HMS Lancaster seized more than 10 million sterling pounds of narcotics and aided a merchant vessel. Sources stated in 2022 that American and foreign naval troops in the Middle East recovered illegal substance worth $1 billion. They disclosed that the Houthis had built factories to make Captagon pills in the areas they controlled during the previous few months in order to smuggle them outside. Before the announcement, the U.S. Navy and partner forces had captured illegal substance worth more than $130 million that were headed towards Yemen and the surrounding area. Houthis, according to the Minister of Information, were behind the smuggling, which contained almost 3 tons of cannabis and heroin. According to a Yemeni court source, Houthi accusations are incorrect because collecting a big quantity of drugs is impossible without arresting members of the smuggling network. He also accused Houthis of releasing a lot of criminals suspected of narcotic smuggling in recent years. and he said that the militia aided the smugglers. To promote the spread of drugs in Yemen and to blackmail tiny traffickers for military gain, Houthis seal drug case files without prosecuting the smugglers or dealers. Furthermore, the informant mentioned proof of Houthis using drugs to attract young men and children. He explained that they provide them narcotics for free in order to boost the number of Yemenis who support them.
Coming up in the news. Residents in Ma'rib take refuge on streets to spend Eid holiday amid lack of public parks in the city.
من بداية الحرب ارتفع سعر المواشي وارتفع سعر الأعلاف. القونية البر الآن ب50,000، يلا نشتري نص قونية. بالنسبة لنا الرعاة عندنا يعني نفكر بالأعلاف، هذا اللي نفكر به. اليوم أقام منظمات الفاو وأعطيتنا احنا 3 جواني أعلاف و3 قوالب ملحية. نستفيد من الأعلاف غذاء للمواشي حافظا على صحة الأغنام، والقوالب الملحية فاتحة للشهية. الذي استلمته اليوم فيساعدنا في حياتي معيشتي اقتصادية مع الأسرة، يعني بدل ما اشتري الأعلاف
Welcome back. Amid Eid al-Adha, Ma'rib streets became the only way for people to go for picnics with their children. This report has more details.
During the days of the blessed Eid al-Adha, the streets of the city of Ma'rib turn into outlets for thousands of families who find nowhere to go except street sidewalks. Unfortunately, Ma'rib lacks gardens and parks, which has become a problem facing millions of residents and displaced people who find it difficult to find safe places for themselves and their children other than street sidewalks to go out on special occasions and holidays.
Ma'rib al-Eid فيه جميل جدا.
Eid al-Ma'rib is great, but children need parks and playgrounds, so it's safe for us, rather than playing on street sidewalks.
The streets of the city of Ma'rib are crowded with thousands of family and children during the days of the blessed Eid al-Adha, although they go out in places that are not safe or suitable for children.
Instead of these dangerous outlets, we call on authorities to open Ma'rib Park for citizens. Eid vibes in Ma'rib are great, but we lack gardens and public parks. This makes us worried about our children because they play on street sidewalks.
The promises of the local authority in Ma'rib Governorate to open parks and gardens in the city have not come to light for 3 years, while the city is crowded with citizens, especially on holidays and special occasions, and they are in dire need of places designated for families and children, specifically in such extremely hot weather.
The governor of Lahj inaugurated the environmentally qualified children's garden project in Al-Hawta district. The governor praised the establishment of the international program for the new park project, which represents an outlet for the children of the city's residents and visitors. He has also stressed the keenness of the local authority leadership to establish strategic public parks projects in the governorate, which includes various games and other services. The Minister of Agriculture reviewed plan to enhance the role of the agriculture for the period from 2023 to 2027. The minister noted that the activities of the high-level ministerial event for developing and less developed countries, which was held at the headquarters of the Food and Agriculture Organization. This was concluded in the Italian capital, Rome, in the role played by the ministry in May 2020 in cooperation with the Food and Agriculture Organization.
طبعا الزراعة هي في محافظة لحج هي تعتبر كانت المصدر الأساسي والرئيسي في سبل العيش. الانخفاض القوي دائما يكون في أمطار كثيرة وغزيرة فيسبب إنه يقول لك يكون في يقلل من الزراعة أو إنه أحيانا نلغي المواسم بشكل عام. محافظة لحج طبعا كانت بشكل عام كانت سابقا تعتمد على يمكن 80% زراعة، انما الان ممكن تقول يمكن 30% الجفاف، احيانا الامطار والسيول تؤدي، احيانا يعني ما فيش دعمهم يعني مثلا زي البذور زي فقلت الزراعة في المحافظة. سيول كبيرة ادى الى تدمير اغلب المزارع. برضه قلة الأمطار يعني شحيحة في لحج بشكل عام أو في المنقول باليمن حتى ممكن بشكل عام، إنما ما فيش البديل دائما إلا أما إنهم يحفروا آبار، والآبار هذه طبعا مكلفة كثير توصل لملايين، فيكون أحيانا أغلب الأشخاص حتى باعوا أراضيهم ورجعوها سكنين. احنا اول حاجه نروح ننزل او نشوف المشكله يعني، وبعد كده نحاول ان نجلس مع كل طرف لحاله، وبعدين نتعامل معهم مع بعض ونقوم نحل النزاع هذا ونوعي الناس ان الزراعه هي في الاخر ولو بمبلغ بسيط. تمثل الأم والأخت والزوجة والنساء، يجب عليهم أن يكونوا هم القدوة الحسنة في تغيير المجتمع بشكل عام.
The World Health Organization warned that preventing children from taking vaccine in Yemen caused increasing cases of tropical diseases among children. According to the latest statistics, more than 24,000 cases have been recorded, especially in the Houthi-controlled areas. This report has more.
While the number of those affected by the floods rose to 300,000 people, the World Health Organization counted 24,000 cases of fever during the first quarter of this year as a result of the cessation of periodic vaccination campaigns, which is a decision taken by the Houthis since the corona pandemic, and their incitement of the population through the media and mosques to refuse to vaccinate children under the pretext of Western conspiracy. In recent data distributed by the United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs in Yemen, most of the controlled areas by the Houthis rank first in the number of affected people, with a total of more than 193,000 people. The city of Aden came in the second place in terms of the number of affected people, who numbered more than 84,000 people. Then Eb Governorate, while the rest of the affected people were distributed in Sana'a and Saada Governorate. The United Nations confirmed that the gap in the humanitarian response to those affected by the floods was large, ranging between 60 and 96%, with a total average of 72%, and non-food items and emergency shelter constitute most of the needs of those affected. The latest report of the World Health Organization monitored more than 23,000 cases of fevers and viruses associated with poor vaccination campaigns during the first quarter of this year, in addition to 2,080 suspected cases of cholera, and the actual numbers are likely to be much higher. The report of the European Commission for Civil Protection warned of diseases associated with low vaccination coverage in children, especially measles cases, which recorded a sharp increase, and said that the majority of patients who were treated for measles were children under the age of 4 years. The European Commission stated that there is a significant increase in malnutrition cases in Yemen in the coming month due to the continued worsening of food insecurity, poor health services, and humanitarian funding gaps.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. Joint forces defense a massive Houthi attack on the Dara Governorate. Houthi militia threatens to launch large-scale war if truce efforts fail. Houthis are accused of turning Yemen into a drug hub in the region. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali, and thank you for watching. News.